Hi, this is Paula from Alanda Craft, and in this video I'm going to show you how to digitize the Polygon coaster we did in the previous video. So if you haven't watched that video, it's probably worth going in and having a look at that first, because this will make a lot more sense if you do that. So the first thing obviously we want to do is open up Embird. So I've got my icon on the screen here, double click on that. Okay, now at the moment I'm in Editor. It always opens up into Editor first. I want to get into Manager. I want to change my hoop size first. So I click on the editor icon here. And up at the top here, I've got the little hoop icon here. So I click on that. And I just check that my hoop is selected, which it is. I've got a Janome, so that's my hoop size that I'm going to be using for this. So click OK. Okay, so now I want to get into Studio. So the only way to digitize things with Embird is to use the Studio plugin, and that's an extra cost. So if you haven't got it, you'll need to go to the Embird site and purchase it. But once you do, you just need to click on the Studio plugin icon up here. And when you click on that, it'll take you into Studio. And there we go there. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just check my hoop size over here as well. There's a little hoop icon here. I'm going to click on that. And there it is there, so that's fine. It's Janome. So I'm going to click Apply. And now I want to get my workspace a bit smaller. It's a bit big at the moment, so I click on the little zoom icon here. And I'm going to make it smaller, I'm going to actually right click, not left click, just right click. And that brings it smaller. If you right click, it'll make it bigger, like that. So I want to make it smaller. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in an image. So I did try to do this with shapes. There is a shapes option up here, but I just couldn't get it to work. So eventually I just went and created an image in Photoshop. Now that image is available for you. There's a link below this video, so just click on that if you want to use that image. You can create your own if you like, but it's a lot easier if you just use ours if you want to. So I'm going to bring that image in first. So come up here to Image on the menu bar and Import. And that's the image there. So click that and open. It says, do you want to scale the image to fit into your hoop? I'm going to say yes. Okay, so there it is there. It's a little bit big at the moment, so I'm going to just bring it down a little bit smaller. Click on the zoom one again and right click. That's a little better. Okay, now the first thing we want to do is digitize our outline. Remember in the first video we did we put our backing on, and then we stitched over the top of it. It created an outline. It attached the backing for us, but also created the outline so that we knew where to add the material on the top. So that's what we're going to do first. So the icon with a little button you need to press over here, and this is the one you'll be using throughout this tutorial, is this one here. It's the Create Outline Object tool here. So if you click on that, what you'll notice over the other side here is all these options appear. Now, we don't really have to change too much here, but what you want to select first is the Snap to Nodes option here. This one here, it's the fourth, I think it's the fourth checkbox across. So select that one to make sure that's ticked, and I'll show you what that does further on in this tutorial. And we also want to select the straight line here, because we're really only working with straight lines with this. So once those two are selected, we're ready to go. Okay, so now we want to start here. Now, there might be a better way of doing this, but this is the way that finally worked for me. So if we start here, we want to click around this little polygon here, first of all. Okay, so you want to click around. Now, if you're doing this at home, you want to be a little bit more precise with this. I'm just going to be kind of rushing through a bit just so this tutorial doesn't take too long. But you might want to zoom in a little bit, get these lines straight. And at this stage, for the first part of it, it is really worth getting them straight, because everything else will follow along a lot better. So just take your time, get straight lines, make sure they're on the points, and it'll all work out nicely. Okay, so when you come to this point, we're at here now. When you want to join it, you just click a little bit further away. We want to just cover up the top of that one. Okay, and then we want to continue on up here, around here. and here. Now when I get to this point I'm going to stop and I'm going to finish this. So I'm going to right click with my mouse and finish the object. Now you're probably wondering why I just didn't continue on. It's because at this point we need to decide where we're going to go with this, because our machine is going to, at some point we're going to have to double back the stitching because there's no other way around this. So we've got to think about whether we want to go around here, or whether we want to go down here and along here. So at this point we need to stop and basically figure out which way we want to go. So the best way I worked out was to come around here and then stitch down and back, and then come around and stitch down and back, come around and stitch down and back. That seemed to be the most economical way. So the way to do the stitching down and back is to use a thing called backward paths, okay, which is quite simple. So all we need to do now is come back over to here, click on our little icon again, and what we're going to do is create a line coming down and then use backward paths to create a line going back. So let's create the line going down first. So what I'm going to do now, because we've got a little node here now, I can click here. This is where that snapped nodes comes into play. If you click and hold the one you just clicked, I just put on there, and just drag it back, it suddenly clicks into place and goes straight over the other node. And it'll do the same down here now because there is a node here. If I click it a little way and then click and hold it and snap it in, and then it just ensures more preciseness there. You know that it's going to stitch exactly over the other one. Okay, so we've created a downward stitch because you can see there's a little arrow there going down. So we right click and finish the object. All right, now while it's highlighted, what we want to do is come up to transform up here and come down and click the create backward path. Okay, now you may think, what has it done there? What you need to do is come over here and have a look in the inspector here, and you can see here it's created a, see this little arrow going up? That's a backward path. So the first one here is the line going down, and this one here is the line going back up. Okay, all right, so now we just continue on. So we click our little icon again and click a little way and snap it. These ones we can't snap yet because there's no nodes there, so we just click around. And again, when we get to this point, we stop. Right click and finish the object. So let's put our object here, because now we want to create another backward path. So come back to the little icon, click a little way and click and hold and drag it to snap. Same here, snap, finish the object. Okay, so let's put that there. Now we want, while it's highlighted, come up to transform, come down and create backward path. And there you go, it's created that. So we've got the line coming down, and this one is the line going back up. And continue on again. So come around here, right click and finish object, and then we click again. So now we're creating our backward path. It's highlighted, come up, transform, create backward path, and continue on again. Okay. Okay, so we're just about at the end here now. So you can see now I've done the last backward path, but all I really need to do is just this bit here. Okay, so just finish that off. Okay, finish object. So that's done. So that's our outline done. Now what I want to do now is generate the stitches here, because what I want to do is run it through the simulator. I like to see that it stitches out correctly before I go any further. So I come up to the inspector here and I click on the first one with my mouse, then I hold my shift key down, and then I click on the last one. All right, so that highlights them all, and then I right click and generate stitches. Okay, so now come down to the sim. You see these tabs along the bottom? If you click on the sim tab, you'll see now that it starts to stitch out. Okay, I might just speed it up a little. So speed it up by pressing these little buttons here. You see here it'll go down and back up. Let's see if it's all done properly. Down and back up. It's looking good so far. Down and back up. Down and back up. Awesome. Down and back up, and then it should finish there. Excellent. So that's actually worked out perfectly. So you see, once the simulator's finished, it automatically brings you back to the normal tab here where you started, so that's good. Now what I'm going to do is actually group all these together, because there's a lot there. I'll just group them together to keep them a little more organised. One thing you need to remember is to keep these all the same colour. Don't go changing the colour on this first bit, because you want this all to stitch out in one go. If you change the colour, what the machine will do is stop. It'll think you need to change colours, and you don't really need to at this point. This is just the outline stitch. So I'm going to group them. So I select the first one with my mouse, hold down the shift key and select the last one, right click and come here to group one, click that. Alright, so that's step one done. Now the next step is we want to sew on the bits of material. Remember back in the video we sewed on, we put a little bit of material over this first one, stitched around it, and then the machine stopped. Then we took it out of the hoop and we cut around the edges. And then we put another bit of material over the next one, put it into the machine, and sewed around it, and so on, and it stopped again. So we need to do that with each of these little hexagons here. So what I'm going to do is come over here again to our little icon, and come back here. We're going to start here again. So click a little way and snap. So all of these are going to snap now because we've got nodes everywhere, which is really good. So this just makes it really precise. Click a little way, snap, click here, snap. So just a reminder, you're clicking on here and you're holding your mouse down and dragging it. Okay. Do that until you get right around back to the start, and that's it for that first one. So you want to right click and finish the object, okay? And that creates the object up here. Then we want to move on. Okay, so we'll probably start here because that's where we finish. It's always good to just keep everything as close as possible. So I'm going to click that icon again, click here and snap, snap, continue on, click and snap, click and snap, and right click and finish object. So that's number two. Now you'll notice before I go on that these are the same colour as our grouping above there. We want it to stop, okay? So after that first initial outline, which is this one here, we want the machine to stop, and the only way the machine is going to stop is if it sees a colour change. So we need to make these different colours. So I'm going to click on a colour, doesn't matter which one, because really with this we just use one thread colour anyway for the whole lot. So but the machine will just stop knowing that there's a colour change. So we click on any colour and drag it down and hold it over the little blue icon there. And so you notice that will change the colour. So I want it actually to change again. So I want this first one to stitch out and then the machine to stop before it goes on to this one. So I need to change the colour again here. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to be changing the colour for each of these as I go. So okay, so we finished here before. So I'm going to start here again and come around. So click here because I'm going to do this one here now. So let's click. So notice how quick and easy this is once you've got that snap to node selected. Okay, right click, finish object, and again I'm going to change the colour. So click and drag. Now I'm going to start around with this one here. And finish object, change colour. And see how easy this is to do. You'll notice mine's quite dodgy looking because I'm just been quickly rushing through. Like I said, if you get the first outline done right, everything else will follow along beautifully. You'll have a nice stitch out. Okay, change colour again. Okay, finish object and change colour again. Okay, so now I want to generate the stitches for this because again I want to go into the simulator and see how it goes in case I've made any mistakes. So click on the first one, hold down the shift key, click on the last, right click and generate stitches. Alright, so let's go into the simulator. You can see it's already beginning. Now what you want to do for this bit is you want to make sure you have this little icon here checked. This is the pause on colour change icon, and what it will do is it will pause, as it says, it will pause for each colour change so you know that your stops are right. So this is the first bit again. We're doing this sort of the outline. I'll speed that up. And technically this should stop right now. It has. See how it's stopped there? It's mimicking what the machine would do. The machine would stop now so we could remove the hoop and add our first little bit of material on here. So I can continue and press play over here to get it to play again, and this should stop as well. Good. That's what I want. I want that to stop because I want it to be able to remove the hoop out of the machine and cut around the edges of the material. So it should do that for each of these. Let's try the next one. Yep, stopped. Play again. Stopped. Yep. Yep. Good. Good. And the last one there. Awesome. So that's worked out perfectly. So they've all stopped, and that's exactly what we want. So now I want to group these. Okay, so do the same again. Hold the first, shift key, hold the last, right click and group one. Okay, getting there. Okay, now the next step is to create all the fancy stitching. Okay, all along here, and all the satin stitch around the edge. Now, there probably is a better way of doing this. This is the best way I could think of. If you've got a better way, please leave it in the comments. This tended to create a little bit too many jumps than what I wanted, but like I said, it was the best way I could think of at the time, but you know, you might find a better way. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to create our stitching along here, all that fancy stitching along here, and all these lines up here. Okay, so we come over to our little icon here again, click on that. And we want to start over here. So I'm going to click here and snap, and these will all snap nicely. Snap, snap, and snap. Now I'm going to right click and finish the object. Then I'm going to come down here, so it's going to create a jump, and come down here. And snap, and finish these. You could possibly create a connection around here so that it stitches around here. That's another option too, I guess. But anyway, okay, so we'll finish the object. Alright, so that's one's done. And then I'm going to click over here again. And now I'm going to do all these ones that go up here. Okay, so I'm going to start from the bottom here and I'm going to go upwards. Because this is a directional one I'll be using. It's got little sort of arrows, so I want them all to go in the same direction. Click there and snap. Right click, finish object, come back and click the icon again. We'll come over to this side, click and snap there, click and snap there, and finish object. And come over here again, so come over to this one, snap, snap, and finish object. And then we've got one more to go here, snap, and finish object. Okay, so these are all the blue ones here. Now the first thing I want to do is just change the colour on all of them, because with this last one there was a blue, if you look down here in the parts, see all of these, the ones that you've grouped, you can see them all down here in the parts, all the little bits of them. So in this one here that we created the outline, it ended in a blue, but we want the machine to stop because if it sees another blue here it's going to continue on. So we want to change this. I want to change them all to the same colour. I'll change them all to this one here will do. So I'm going to just click and drag to change all these to the same colour. Okay, and what I want to do is give them all the same stitch. So I'm going to select the first one, hold the shift key, select the last, and right click and go parameters. Okay, we want to create a decorative stitch this time, so we need parameters. Okay, so here what we want to do is make sure sample is selected, which it usually is, and then we want to select our stitch. Now I've chosen needles 2, that's the one you saw in the first video, and really I don't change anything else here except the width. I'll click on this 0 here and I want to change it to 4.5. So that's what I do there, and then generate stitches. There you go. So let's generate the stitches for all of that, which is really good. Okay, so now we can, I won't group them. What I will do is just continue on to the next one. Where we finished was here. Remember we did this one as the last one. We went down and back up. And then what we want to do now is the outline. So we can start it from here. Because this is all the same colour, this is going to be the same colour as this. It can just continue on stitching. So it'll come up here, finish this fancy stitch, and then start on here and do the satin stitch. So we'll come over here and click on our little icon again here. Click a little way and go snap. So we're tracing the whole outline of the little coaster here. And keep going around until we get back to the start. Okay, and right click and finish object, right? So that's created the outline, but we want to give this a satin stitch. So while it's highlighted here, you can just right click and go parameters. Okay, right. So this time we want a satin stitch. Okay, so we click on the satin stitch here. And I leave auto select underlay as is. I let it do its own thing there. You might want to play with some of these densities and pull compensations if you're thinking it's not stitching out right. I leave it just as is. It seems to work okay. I mean, it could probably be worked on a little bit to make it a little better, but it seems to work okay for the ones I did. So I don't change anything here, just select satin stitch, and then up here in the width, I change that. So I go width, I click on the word width, that will open up this little pop-up here. And I change this to 5.5. 5.5. Okay, and select that. And generate stitches. Click on that one there. Okay, and there we go. So that is really done. So what I do finally is I just go in and do the whole thing through the sim. I like to check everything again and again. I usually run the simulator a few times just to make sure everything's working okay. So we'll let it run through again. I'll just speed it up a little bit though. Okay, let's stop. Yep. Okay, and now we'll do that fancy stitching. It should continue around. You see how it's doing that outline stitch now around the edge. It's doing an underlay. Speed it up a bit. And now it's doing the satin stitch around there. Okay, awesome, that's perfect. It's all worked out perfectly. Okay, so now what we can do is we want to save this, and you might even want to have saved at the start if you like. There is an auto-save option somewhere in here. I haven't ever used it, but you might want to look around for that. But otherwise, at this point, we want to save it. So we go to Design, and if you go Compile and put into Embird Editor, what it's going to do is ask you to save anyway. You could do Save As now if you want to, but I'm just going to go Compile and put into Embird Editor, and it automatically comes up forcing you to save it, okay, which is a good thing. It saves it as an EOF. You see here? This is an Embird Outline Format EOF. You want to make sure you save it as an EOF, because if you want to make changes to this at a future date, you might find you want to change some of the stitching or whatever. you'll need that EOF file to do that, okay? So I'm going to save that. I've got my library here, and oops, stop. I want my documents. Okay, and I'm just going to save it in my documents here. Okay, so this is I'll just call it Polygon Final. Okay, I'm going to save it here. Polygon Final. That saves as an EOF. So that's done, and it automatically now brings us over into Editor. Okay, and it's brought up this little pop-up. You can choose the file format depending on your machine here. Mine's already checked, so I'm going to go OK. And it's asking me to save it as an EOF, as my final, JEF file, which is my format for my Janome. I'm just going to cancel for a minute because I can see that the hoop size is not right for me here. So I'm just going to cancel that, and I'm going to select the right hoop size here. So if I go hoop size, here we go, that one there, and go OK. That's better. So that's my hoop size that I want to work with this. I'm going to centre it in the hoop too, just in case it's not quite centred, this little option here. Okay, so that's centred it in the hoop. Now I'm going to File and Save As. So what I'm doing now is saving it in a format that my embroidery machine will read. Okay, so choose your target file format, so choose whatever machine you have. You should know which one this is, hopefully. Otherwise, check your manual. And I'll go OK. And I will call this, see, I've already got a previous version there, but I'm going to call this Polygon Coaster Final, and save. Okay, so that has now saved it into the JEF format for me. So what I can do now is put a thumb drive, or depending on what you use, but I use a thumb drive for my machine, in the back of my computer, save this file onto it and take it over to my embroidery machine, and away I go. Okay, so hopefully this works for you. If you have any problems, please leave comments in the under this video. If you've got any better options on how to make it work better, that's also helpful too. It'll help me and it'll help other people. So hope you have fun with this, and thank you for watching.